Hello, everyone. It's Whitney Wiley, and thank you for joining me for another edition of 30 Days of Habits, where we are talking to the contributors of the best-selling book, One Habit for Success, the Smart Femme Summit Special Edition. And today I have with me Casey Hasten. And before we get started, I want you all to wish Casey a happy birthday. So if you're watching this live, type in happy birthday. And if you're watching it later on the replay, just hit replay and then say happy birthday, Casey. Happy birthday, Casey. How are you?
I am so good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you with me today. One, because it's your birthday, and so you're the first contributor I've talked to on their actual birthday, so that's pretty cool.
And it's my chapter number.
And then the other thing is, one of my favorite habits is the one that you've written about, and I think it's so important to set your day up with a routine. And so why don't you tell us about the routine that you talk about in the book? Maybe a little bit about your routine and how it's evolved over time.
I can certainly do that. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because I truly believe that setting your day up for success starts first thing in the morning. And I can go into a whole bunch of detail, but for me, it started with reading a couple of books. The first one was The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. Love that book.
Yes.
And the first, I guess it would almost be an unhabit, but not really. But the first thing I did was I quit hitting snooze. I was so tired throughout the day and I didn't understand why. And I mean, it's so silly, but such a simple thing like not hitting snooze and the science that backs it up is so important. And so when I stopped hitting snooze, I started getting up in time to do things, right?
Yes.
And then I read another book, and I think this is the one you were referring to, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
Yes, love it, love it.
Life-changing. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why I learned the power of a morning ritual is from him. And he talks about his savers and, going through that each day. And I started with that and I do some of that, but mine's kind of changed over time for what works better for me because I'm also writing another book. And so I needed time for writing. So I scheduled that in. But there are two things, and I talk about this in my chapter, that are absolutely non-negotiable. I don't care what time I get up. If I'm late for work, I'm late for work because my day's just going to be a mess. It's going to be chaos if I don't do this. And the first thing I do is I meditate. I've got to get my mind centered.
Yes.
I've got to get my focus intact and get ready for the day so that I can, do what I need to get done. And then the second thing is I journal. I am a journal freak now. I'm a freak. I went through so many different journals trying to find the one that worked for me. Started with Mel Robbins' 5-Second Journal. But I wanted one that was more inclusive because I'm really big about goals and writing those goals down.
Yes, yes.
And so I wanted a journal that would include my goals, but it would also give me room to brain dump and do all the good things, right? And I found what I needed in the Full Focus Journal, which is a Michael Hyatt product. Love this. I'm on, I think, my 6th or 7th one.
Okay.
In a per quarter. So really, really great journal. Highly recommend it. And there's one other thing that I think is so important because just like it's important to write down your goals, and I don't mean type them, I mean you need to write them. It's something happens in your brain, right?
Yes.
I think it's important to write down your morning rituals and assign those time values because you don't realize how much time adds up just doing little things like making your coffee in the morning, and things like that. So that's my habit and I stick by it.
I love that. And, I have done the same thing. And when I tell people about the morning miracle as a place to start, I always reiterate, it's important to do what works for you, to ultimately move from a place where someone has laid out a plan for you, but move to something that actually works for you. And so like you, I don't do the savers exactly the way they're laid out in the book, but at some point in the day they get done and I start my day each morning pretty much the same way. I do prayer, meditation, and then whether or not I do my journaling first thing or not, you know, depends. And but it's getting your mind set for the day, right? It's setting an intention for your day and knowing what's on your calendar and being clear about what it is you want to achieve.
That is so huge. And I love that you said that about knowing what's on your calendar, because that's the first thing I do when I start journaling. So I've taken some things from other journals that I really loved, like Mel Robbins will have you record your mood. I think that's important, you know, to record your mood in the morning. And I'll tell you a little secret that I do. I don't ever record a bad mood,
Oh,
even if I'm in a bad mood. I'm not going to give it that power. You know, it kind of like a reverse intention. I don't know, but I definitely, I don't record a bad mood. But interesting that you said that, you know, you got to find what works for you. I just recently interviewed a CEO coach. That's all he coaches are the CEOs. He coaches them, the shadow side of success is what he calls it. But he was talking about that too. And I mean, he was just adamant about, you know, he goes, I don't want to hear any more about this 5 a.m. club, you know, because some people think because those people say that's the only way you can be successful, you got to get up at 5 a.m.
Right.
And that doesn't serve everybody. Not everybody's a 5 a.m. person. I'm certainly not, right? So I love that you said that. You're the third person I've heard say that in the last week. So thank you.
No, it's really important because I think if people don't understand that, if they think that they have to do a habit the way someone else does it and it doesn't work for them, either they'll feel like they're, I don't want to say the L word, but you know, they'll feel like they're failing,
Yeah.
right? Or that there's something wrong with them. And there's nothing, let me say this, there's nothing wrong with you if you don't want to get up at 5 a.m. or if you don't need to get up at 5 a.m., right? So just a little, you know, real quick, I used to run with a group at 4:30 in the morning. We ran 4 or 5 days a week, 4:30 in the morning, which meant being up in order to get some of my morning stuff done before I went out to run, getting up at about 3:30, getting started, getting out for the run, and then coming back and getting ready for work. Well, when I quit my job to work for myself, I don't need to get up at 3:30 in the morning anymore. And so I don't. So I can start my day later. Sometimes I start my day at 5 a.m. Sometimes I start my day later. But I think it's really important that people understand that you have to do what works for you. I'm a big believer in balance and self-efficacy. And so figure out what works for you and do that. But the point of the book is for people to share habits that work. They work for success. They work for very successful people. And all you need to do is take it and modify it to actually work for you. So the other thing you talked about in your chapter for your unhabit, right, was the scripts that are playing in your head.
Yes.
Talk about that and how to remove those scripts so that they're not detrimental to your success.
Well, I think I opened that section of the chapter up by saying that, you know, I heard someone say one time that if someone was to put a microphone up to your head and heard the way you were talking to yourself, you would probably be committed. And it's so true.
Yes.
We're horrible to ourselves. And, you know, I mean, we wouldn't say some of those things to our worst enemy, but we talk to ourselves that way. And it's just, it's so self-defeating. And so once I realized, you know, the stories and the things that I was telling myself and those limiting beliefs, it was first, once you recognize when that limiting belief comes up and you are telling yourself a story and you don't know if that's true, because your mind wants to fill in the gaps, right? And you don't know everything. That's the first step to getting rid of those scripts. And then you just really have to start training your mind to recognize it and stop it. You know, I think I give the example in the book about like when my coworkers would go into the boss's office and I just knew they were going in there to tattle on me because we just had a fight, right? I just knew it. I knew that's what was going to happen. And I knew that for some reason I was going to be the one who was at fault. And so I'm starting to pack up my desk and get ready to go. And the coworker walks out and goes and sits at his desk. they weren't talking about me, it had nothing to do with me.
Don't
So
you just love that? That you think people are thinking so much about you.
yeah, and really you're the least of their concern most of the time. So yeah, so that's my unhabit. And I think that's really powerful that you learn to recognize that voice, your inner critic, and tell it to
Yes,
shut up.
yes. Cool. So, any parting words before we go?
Um, I would just say be nice to yourself, give yourself grace and don't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. That's something I really try to live by because, I can't be, the number one podcaster when I just started, I can't
Right.
compare myself to that person. And that's not fair to do that. So walk your own journey. Everybody's journey is unique. And so walk yours and know that you're in the right place at the right time.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Again, happy birthday, Casey. And
Yeah.
everyone, don't forget to wish Casey a happy birthday. If you haven't purchased your copy of the One Habit for Success, the Smart Fem Summit Special Edition, please do so. The link is in the post, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye, Casey.
Thank you.
Thanks.